Okay, howdy folks, welcome to our next lesson on settlement. Alright, today we're going to be looking at Bahamian settlement. Got the date and units and stuff here in your objective. Okay, so we're just going to be looking at how the major settlements of the Bahamas have grown up and changed. So obviously we'll look at Nassau and a bit of Freeport, and then how they've changed over time. Alright, we'll be using ideas from New Wider World, such as the site and situation of both places, and a bit about their function. Okay, so we're just going to start off with these three key words, all right, or phrases. Make a note of these under where you've headed up. Okay, so what is a new town, first of all? So this is a planned urban centre. Remember, urban means city, created in an undeveloped or rural, meaning countryside area, especially with government sponsorship or funding. You can put the word funding just after that. Okay, so new towns are planned. Most settlements, nearly all settlements, are not planned, but more recently we've started to plan new settlements, either to move people or to have a certain function or to serve a certain purpose. All right, Freeport is an example of a new town. It was designed and discussed. A free port, then, notice how there's a space, it's not one word. This is a port which is open to most traders and is also an area where goods that are in transit or still being transported are tax exempt. They don't have to pay taxes and charges. This makes them very, very attractive for trading and so on, and can bring in a lot of money. Okay, a lot of traffic through your ports. Now finally, then, a primate city. We might not get onto this today, but what is a primate city? So a primate city is the largest city in its country, province, state or region. It's disproportionately larger than any others in the urban hierarchy. Now remember, we looked at that triangle of hierarchy with our largest settlements at the top, usually cities, all the way down to tiny villages. Now a primate city, what that means is, for example, some countries may not even have a full-blown city, really. Okay, so whatever their biggest settlement is will usually be a primate city. But to be a primate, you have to be considerably, or many times more, larger than the next biggest settlement in that place. Okay, so primate cities are usually the capital cities, but not always. So the best example is Bangkok in Thailand. Okay, it's 40 times bigger than any other, than the next biggest settlement in Thailand. Okay, so Nassau would be the primate city in the Bahamas. New York, even though it's it is the biggest settlement in America, it is not a primate city because it's only slightly larger than LA, for example. So it needs to be considerably larger and bigger than the next settlement. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Bahamas today, start on page 124 and start looking through information about Bahamian settlements. If you don't have Bahamas today, I suggest you make a note of anything that we write down in the textbook, obviously, and a note of some of the things we highlight as we go through. Okay? Okay, so page 124 of Bahamas today. All right, Nassau and New Providence. All right, New Providence is the island, Nassau is the city. So Nassau's modern growth began just over 200 years ago with the influx of loyalists, British, to the Bahamas. All right, so that's where we started. Well, not started, but that's where our modern growth began, where the city actually started to take form or shape. About 100 years later, Nassau was officially became a city in 1882. All right, so been a city for about 150 years. Okay, now the next things that always happen then for a city to grow is either, we looked at this in New Wider World about the range of services and so on, but the two things that are very important are the area or the size of the city expands and the population expands. So 1970, the population had exceeded 100,000 people. By 2000, okay, it was 210,000. So in just 30 years, okay, the population more than doubled. Now today, 2016, which is the last kind of most recent reliable data, we're up to 266,000. So it has slowed a little bit. Okay, but that's what we're looking at the moment. So it has steadily grown in the past. Okay, so on to page 125. Okay, so just a little map here. All right, so showing kind of most of New Providence. All right, oops, let me just do that. Lovely. Okay, we got Nassau as the dark green, and just it shows the expansion. So the darkest green was where we started. The next level was the first expansion, and then by 1988, if we had a more modern map, I think this light green color would expand all along the coasts. Okay, so and just a couple of notes from the photo or the map. The first areas of development were quite compact, okay, due to both the size of the population and the limited means of transport. So this little original piece here, we didn't have the transport to spread out, and we couldn't get through the ridgelands, and we couldn't really build stuff, and we had a small population. Okay, the harbours approached from the northeast Providence Channel and a dredge channel from the western end of Paradise Island. Okay, now what I want to do there is I've highlighted dredge channel. So the ocean is nice and deep all the way along here. All right, so large boats and cruise ships and stuff can come in. It starts to get very shallow then here. But what we've done is we've dredged and cut out a big channel like that, so we could get the cruise ships in and everything else. All right, so we've changed the physical features of the area slightly to allow the settlement to grow. All right, I just want to move down a little bit here. Okay, so again, another figure from a long time ago, but this was the extent of downtown Nassau. All right, we had the little harbours, and this was downhill at East Street and Nassau Street, the whole place, Baintown and Grandstand. That was pretty much it, over as far as Collins Avenue. So just a little note: consider the spread of the city today compared to 150 years ago. Okay, so it's changed dramatically. Okay, we've spread out and covered a much bigger area. Okay, so on to page 126. All right, so as the population has grown, so has the built-up area. So again, think about the hierarchy: population, area, increase. Okay, today the city dominates the entire island and its satellite island, Paradise Island. Okay, so we've gone from having a tiny area of settlement, we dominate the whole island. Okay, however, until the post-war era, since 1945, the outer suburbs scarcely existed. All right, small plantations were set up. Okay, so you had Clifton and along Gambier Ridge and so on. All right, so there were some smaller little settlements that started up out west. All right, but they didn't really last very long. They have obviously re-established now. Governors established planned settlements, okay, for freed slaves at Adelaide, okay, Carmichael, and so on. These did not thrive, however, as there was little work to be had outside of Nassau. So we tried to kind of disperse people and spread the settlement out around the island, but it didn't really work. Now I know Carmichael is very busy today. Clifton and Adelaide have small settlements. So, but when they were attempted first, these settlements didn't work. Okay, but they've come back a bit. Alright, so we should finish this page. Grandstand and Bainstown became the main residential areas for all but the wealthy. Until about 1970, remained the most populated area of the city. So that piece we looked on the last map, that core of the city was where most of the population lived. In the meantime, those who could afford it built houses along the shore, along the coast. Okay, east as far as Fort Montague and west as far as Saunders Beach. Alright, so now what you have is you've got more people, and you've also got more people gaining money. Alright, so they start to spread out. They can afford to build houses further out from the city, and that's when it starts to grow. Alright, that is the same pattern in most places. You'll have an urban centre, and then the wealthier people tend to move out to the edges because they can afford transport. They don't want to live in a cramped little space. They want to have their own big space, and so on. The 20th century, remember that's 1900 to 1999, saw extensions to all of these areas. So this is when things start to kick off then, okay? Wealthier residents continue to spread out east and west, okay, to Cable Beach and to the east end point, Yamacraw Point, and so on. So what we have is a little history of the timeline of the growth of Nassau, right, which we'll continue in the next video.